What's going on, everybody? So in this video, we are going to be talking about what's going on in the crypto and Web3 markets, some major NFT projects that are coming up, and some of our updates with our favorite projects. Now, diving right into it, first thing we got to do is see what's going on in crypto, right? So over the past month, Ethereum pumped from like 1.2 all the way to 1.6, which is actually quite significant if you really think about it. A lot of people are still speculating that this is a bull trap, meaning that the price will probably go down because the outlook of the whole S&P 500. A lot of people are saying like it's overbought, and crypto typically follows S&P 500, so you definitely want to be careful with your entry and exit strategy. I feel like things are a little bit too bullish in the crypto space in my personal opinion, but hey, not financial advice. That's just my personal take. Now, when we're going into the NFT market, there's a lot of exciting things going on here. Now, the first thing we'll talk about is going to be an upcoming mint called Ghost Boy. Now, Ghost Boy is a character made by this guy, Evan, in 2015. And apparently, Evan is one of the co-founders of Cool Cats. Now, if you go on Evan's website, he said he co-founded Cool Cats, one of the leading Web3 NFT companies. And it seems like he's doing like a lot of B2B work. He said he previously rebranded Bitcoin.com, worked with companies like Microsoft, Adult Swim, Valve. He launched Alpha Labs as well, which apparently is going to be a Web3 venture studio. One thing that I'm curious about, if this person founded Cool Cats, wouldn't it make sense to continue building Cool Cats into like a major IP? But it seems like he kind of went a different route where he started Cool Cats. Maybe he leveraged the success of Cool Cats to start his Web3 agency, possibly. Anyways, going back to what this project is about, they've only been tweeting recently, right? So it's only from January 15th. So it's only been like 2 weeks since they started tweeting. So they're focusing on, let's say, a ghost list, now capture all riddle winners yesterday. So if you go on the website, there's like this ghost list, and basically these are going to be the people that won the whitelist. And it's actually quite interesting because it's very simple. The art's very clean. I mean, I'm not really sure if this is what the PFP is going to look like, but personally, I like the art style, but it's hard to say what it is. Is it going to be IP? It's going to be like Cool Cats. It's not very clear, but it's very cryptic. So they definitely hit the mark when it comes to the whole cryptic marketing, getting people excited about something. This is the, one of the co-founders of Cool Cats. So it's definitely have a narrative going on, and people will probably mint it, right? And it seems like you have to like answer with riddles and things like that in order to get the ghost list. There's raffles and things like that. So if you want to check that out and learn about more about Ghost Boy, check out their Twitter. Next project we're going to talk about is going to be a project that recently minted, and it's going to be Porsche 911. Now, we did talk about this on the channel recently, and it seems like they weren't able to sell out all the units. I think they were going for like around 10,000 items, but they only sold 2,300. And the reason was because the mint price was pretty high. So it was like a 0.9 ETH mint, and then the supply was too high based on demand, so they had to cut it, and then the floor price actually went below the mint price, and that's when it was kind of game over when it comes to the mint. You might be wondering, why is this project pumping, right? So like basically you kind of look at the floor went from like 0.9 to 3, and then now it's sitting at 2. So what was the reason behind this? And if you look into the analytics, and then you go into the top holder, which is going to be 911stake.eth, a lot of people are speculating that this is actually just the team Porsche and maybe the Web3 Porsche. Some people speculate like, hey, they just bought their own supply, which, if you buy your own supply, that's fine, because the last sales are very high, 2.9, 2.9. So it seems like they bought all the way from like 1.7 all the way to almost 3 ETH. Or maybe this is an anonymous person, and maybe they just really like the project, right? That was part of the reason for why it pumped so high. Some people on Twitter and stuff like that are saying like, hey, this is a fail, this is a flop, and things like that. Well, they still made like a mil or two, right? And they also have like 0% creator earnings. And I think for Porsche, they're just trying to see what this Web3 thing is all about, be on the forefront of it, so that one day when maybe digital collectibles become more mainstream, they had already launched 1 or 2 projects and they can put their foot on the gas. I really feel like for them, it's more of an experiment and people that want to go along for the ride, which there's nothing wrong with that. I just feel like it could have been done better based on the legacy of their brand. Some people will say, positive things. Some people will say negative things. It is what it is. But at the end of the day, like, people who want to collect these digital collectibles, they can. And if you don't want to collect it, then you don't have to, right? Next project we're going to talk about is an interesting one that I've kind of been following for a little bit. It's going to be 6529 Collection. So this is basically an NFT project by, I guess you could call him a thought leader, Punk 6529. And he basically drops these meme cards, right? So there's no like hard utility for them. It's more like memes and arts. And then every so often he does drop another collection. So actually they've been dropping like a lot, like thousands of units, and they drop it like every season and stuff like that. And they collaborate with a lot of known artists in the Web3 space. The recent collaboration is going to be with Dirty Robot, who did the art for Renga. And there's this whole mechanic of like, there's going to be 999, mid price is going to be 0.06529. It's all CCO, meaning, anybody can use the copyright for this. And there's going to be a allow list for, Dirty Robot works and 6529 holders, right? So it's quite an interesting case study where somebody basically has a brand on Twitter and they're able to keep dropping these digital collectibles. There's no like utility besides possibly getting the opportunity to buy the next collectible. There's no promise of like anything big of like, oh, this is going to be a game or things like that. It's it's just like it's art for art's sake, from my understanding of it, which is actually quite interesting, and people really do believe in it, right? Even when you're looking at the floor price for this, you know, there's going to be 58 items, meaning 58 different SKUs, you could call it, and then the floor is like 0.499, which is a lot, right? If you go into any of these, like let's say first GM, there's going to be 2,400 owners, right? So it's not like there's only 58 items. There's like, I think like tens of thousands if you really look into all the numbers, and the floor is holding up so well. So which is quite phenomenal in my opinion, right? I'm not even sure how exactly they're doing it, but they're doing it, and they're dropping these like, you know, every so often. So that's great. Now, speaking of 6529, I actually did an AMA with Darren, who works with Punk 6529 on the Open Metaverse project, one of their projects that they're working on. And then we just kind of did an interview of, I guess, me, of like whatever, everything I'm doing with the Parallax and things like that. So if you want to check out that interview, definitely check out Darren. He's been doing these spaces literally like every week with like a bunch of different people. So that was quite fun to kind of share my story and learn about what they're doing over there. On top of that, we're going to talk about something real quick, and that's going to be security when it comes to NFTs. So recently, Kevin Rose, one of the co-founders of Moonbirds, was just hacked. He lost quite a lot of assets, right? So it seems like he lost like 25 squiggles, autoglyphs, and I'm sure there's other things in his vault. It's very unfortunate, right? So even if you are, you know, someone who's very tech savvy and things like that, there are still ways to get hacked if you're not very careful. And how exactly he got hacked, Aaron, which is the VP of Engineering at Proof, kind of broke it down over here. Long story short, he signed a transaction that he shouldn't have signed because he was trying to do something, right? So it's really unfortunate, but if anything, we got to look at this in a positive light, where it's kind of like a wake-up call. Like if someone who is, you know, kind of like a leader in the space is able to get hacked, you know, we're all vulnerable in some sense, right? If we don't have the security guards in place. So let's look at this from a positive perspective and say, okay, what can we do better moving forward? How do we secure our assets in maybe different wallets? How do we have different layers of security? And how do we make sure that we don't sign the wrong transactions and things like that? So definitely a lesson to be learned over there. Now, the next project we're going to talk about is going to be Doodles. Now, Doodles has been a little quiet these days, but they recently came out with some new updates with what's going on with the Dooplicator, right? So they got this website over here. Start your Doodles 2 journey with the Dooplicator. So they're going to have different wearables for your Doodles. So these are going to be like, you know, digital collectibles and clothes you can put on your Doodles, and allows you to express yourself, right? And now, is this going to bring a lot of value to the ecosystem? Questionable, right? It's hard to say. So moving forward, there's going to be 3 extraordinary models. There's going to be very common, and rare. So if you have a Dooplicator, you can extract wearables from that Dooplicator, put it on your NFT, and then the Dooplicator will recharge. So I'm guessing this will be like a clothes printer. It will continue to keep printing clothes over time. So I guess that creates value where, you know, if you are expecting some kind of cool clothes, you'll keep your Dooplicator and the floor price will hold. So I definitely understand that. Now, where I'm a little confused is we have the Dooplicator over here, which is great, right? So it prints clothes. I think we're still waiting for what's going on with this Doodle box, right? It's kind of unclear on what's the differentiation between the Dooplicator. Is this just going to be clothes that you can keep making? It's more valuable, and the box is a one-time thing, like a mystery box. So I wish there was more clarity on that on the website, but I didn't really see a clear explanation of that. And the other thing about Doodles is that when it comes to Doodles 2, they're going to be launching it on the Flow blockchain, right? And so a lot of people are kind of caught by surprise. They're like, wait a minute, you know, why isn't it on Ethereum? So, you know, Flow blockchain is also the backend infrastructure for NBA Top Shot, which was one of the hottest, I guess you call it, NFT projects back in the day that onboarded a lot of people into NFTs. You know, my personal take on this is that if Doodles, the Genesis collection, right, which is the main one, remains on Ethereum, that's kind of like where people hold their valuable assets. So Doodle 2, in a way, is a way for people to get onboarded into Web3. If you remove as many barriers as you can, you make things more centralized versus decentralized, like Ethereum is, then more people have an opportunity to get into the space because it's much easier compared to getting a MetaMask, getting a ledger, doing the whole seed phrase thing. And I think for NBA Top Shot, that was a really interesting way to get everybody onboarded because they're already so used to buying things centralized, just like how if you go on Steam or you play League of Legends or whatever it is, it's all centralized, right? And I think the average person is more used to that, where they can just use their credit card, get some tokens, and then, or like coins, and they can buy different assets. So I can understand why, you know, Doodles might move into Flow so they can onboard the masses into their ecosystem. And then I think at one point when the super fans, people who are going to buy, you know, one of the 10,000 Genesis Doodles, they might be like, hey, you know, how exactly do I get that? I can't buy it on Flow blockchain. Oh, I have to use Ethereum. So I think at that point, those people are willing to go through the pain to learn how to use MetaMask to buy that high value asset. So in a way, like, we don't know whether or not this is going to be the right move or not, but you know, that definitely is an interesting step, because if it works, then it kind of changes the game for everyone and everyone will kind of do it. If it doesn't work, we'll probably have to take a step back and think about, you know, which direction to go. But I definitely do respect the innovation there. And so with that said, that is everything we got to cover for this video. I will see you in the next one.